Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to BTSC and another one of our great shows. This one is We Run the North. And this show is set up to talk about all of the AFC North divisional teams, all of our rival teams, the Bengals, the Browns, the Ravens. Last week, we kind of got into the best all-time team from each organization. Today, what we're going to talk about, all this free agency talk, all this talk about quarterback, we're going to talk about the quarterback rooms in the AFC North. So we're going to talk about all the teams and the quarterbacks on those teams. So just a brief rundown. Pittsburgh Steelers, as we currently stand, who knows what we'll have in a couple days here, in the next week, who knows what we'll have. But right now, as it stands now, we have Mason Rudolph. Everybody in Steeler Nation not necessarily happy about that. I don't know how I feel about Mason, but we'll come back to that. Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins. The Cleveland Browns, we have Baker Mayfield. We love Baker. We probably love Baker more than we love Mason. And we love playing against Baker. We're guaranteed 3 or 4 sacks, a pick 6 maybe, probably a win most years, unless he's playing Mason. And they have Case Keenum as their backup. The Cincinnati Bengals have Super Bowl participant, AFC Super Bowl quarterback Joe Burrow, and Brandon Allen is their backup quarterback. And the other team, the Baltimore Ravens, MVP winner Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley. Tyler Huntley played well last year, backing up Lamar Jackson the final 4 or 5 games of the season. He looked really good. So let's get into the quarterbacks. We'll save Pittsburgh for last. We'll go ahead and talk about the Cincinnati Bengals because, they're the most team that played most recently. And we're talking about Joe Burrow and Brandon Allen. I personally think Joe Burrow is probably the best quarterback in the AFC North. And that's a lot to say. Saying it really quick. This is his second year, but he played really well. He came back and won a lot of games. He kept the Bengals in a lot of games. Him and Jamar Chase is going to be a tough combination to deal with over the next foreseeable future. Not to mention T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd and Uzama, the tight end. The Bengals have some weapons. Joe Mixon, the running back. If they get some offensive line help and beef up that offensive line, they're going to be a problem. But Joe Burrow, I think he has moxie and poise. He's a really good he's a really good late game quarterback. At least from what I'm seeing right now. He hasn't played in a lot of games, a lot of late games. I mean, because you consider he got hurt about the 10th game last year, and he played a full season this year, and the Bengals went 10-7. But I really like Joe Burrow a lot. Brandon Allen, don't know much about Brandon Allen. The games I've seen him in, he's looked like a serviceable backup. So I think he's good at being a backup. What he's there for. He comes in the games I've saw. He makes solid decisions. I mean, he actually looked really good. I can't remember who they played. One of the games, Burrow was out, so it must have been in the end of last year. But he looked, not this past year, but year before. But he looked really good, and I like Brandon Allen quite a bit. He's like 6'4", well, big guy. I really don't have a whole bunch on Brandon Allen, but I think he's a good backup, and shouldn't have to play a lot because he's backing up Joe Burrow, so he won't just get in unless something happens to Joe Burrow again. But I think they have a decent back. We'll call him decent. Cleveland Browns, Baker Mayfield. Well, the Browns, like the Steelers, are in the market for a free agent QB. They're looking. They're doing their due diligence on Deshaun Watson. You know, I've seen rumors about them potentially looking to sign Marcus Mariota. So I don't know. I mean, Baker Mayfield is what 6'1", so he's short. He really doesn't see over the line. I think Baker Mayfield thinks he's more athletic than what he really is. So he rolls out and tries to scramble around like he has the capabilities to outrun some of these defensive linemen and some of these defensive players, but he really doesn't. And that plays into the defense's hand. And I think coming out of Oklahoma, after he won the Heisman Trophy, back up a little bit, Joe Burrow won the Heisman True. Also, Baker Mayfield won a Heisman. But when he's coming out of Oklahoma, I think the thing was accuracy was his thing, but he seemed to digress in regards to his accuracy over the few seasons he's been in the NFL. So the Browns are actively looking. I don't know that they'll pull the trigger, but they're looking for, somebody to come in and create some competition with Baker Mayfield outside of Case Keenum. Baker has some erratic throws. He doesn't win big games. Baker doesn't win big games. The few times he's had opportunities to come back late game situations, he hasn't got the job done. I mean, you think about that playoff game last year against Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes got hurt and went out. Baker Mayfield had the ball down 4 with like about 5 minutes left, and he threw an interception that ultimately would lose the game. I mean, if Patrick Mahomes is not playing, you're Baker Mayfield, you got the ball with 5 minutes left, you can take your team down for a win. You kind of got to win that game, Baker. So like I said, Cleveland is on the quarterback market as far as looking. Andrew Berry, the GM, is trying to see what's out there. Don't know what they'll do, but we'll see. And Cleveland's backup, Case Keenum, is a career backup. He's had some starter seasons in the NFL. He took the Minnesota Vikings to the playoffs, and they won the game, the miracle catch game with Stephon Diggs against New Orleans Saints. And that was a Saints team that probably could have went to the Super Bowl. But, in Case Keenum at that time in Minnesota was with Kevin Stefanski. Stefanski is in Cleveland now, obviously, as the head coach. This will be his 3rd year coming up next season. But so he knows Stefanski's system, and he fits, and he's just that guy that Stefanski can lean on and count on to come in the game and get you out of the stadium with a potential W. I mean, because he is a good, better than serviceable backup. I know Brian Anthony Davis has a man crush on Case Keenum as a backup quarterback. But so I do like Case Keenum. I don't know if he could you can't plug him in as a starter, because as a starter he wouldn't give you a whole bunch more than Baker Mayfield. But coming off the bench as a relief pitcher to come in the game and deal with coming in to try and salvage a game, I think Case Keenum is perfectly suited for that. So I like Case Keenum as a backup. Next, we'll talk about the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, we all know about Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson is a problem. Lamar Jackson has won an MVP. Lamar Jackson also Heisman Trophy winner. But Lamar Jackson scares me much more as a runner or as a scrambler or as a quarterback on the move than he does a passer. in the games the Steelers have played against them, the Steelers kind of play Lamar Jackson better than anyone else. They give him problems. They force turnovers. They sack him. They do a lot of different things to Lamar. I mean, and I think it's because he hasn't completely developed as a pocket passer. He had the MVP season, where I believe he threw 35 touchdowns and ran for 10 or 12 other touchdowns. And that was a really good season, but I think he caught a lot of people off guard. Lamar Jackson is always a threat whenever he's on the football field. Always a threat. He can, if you give him a lane, you give him a crease, he can take it to the house from any amount of yards on the field. If that's 30 yards out, 60 yards out, 80 yards out, he can take it to the house. He has 4.4 speed. Like I said, he has a nice arm. He has a far as arm talent, arm strength. I don't know that he's the most accurate of quarterbacks either, but his legs as a threat make receivers more open, because the defense has to always be mindful and be ready to come up to stop Lamar Jackson from running and scrambling. That allows receivers to be more open than what they might be against another quarterback. So, Lamar Jackson, like I said again, MVP, great player, will be a problem for the AFC North for some time to come. And the backup in Baltimore is Tyler Huntley. I like Tyler Huntley coming out of Utah. I liked him at Utah. He played really well. He played quarterback, and the running back at that time was Moss. Moss, the running back currently plays for the Buffalo Bills. They were a nice tandem. Utah's had a good college football team for the past probably 7 or 8 years, really. But they were really good with Tyler Huntley and is it Zach Moss? Zach Moss in the backfield. But Tyler Huntley came in and played a lot of games this year because Lamar Jackson was hurt. So, and I like Tyler Huntley. He came in, I thought he did some really good things. I thought he kept him in a lot of games. He also has mobility. Not like Lamar Jackson. Well, mobility similar to Lamar Jackson, but not near the speed that Lamar Jackson has. So he's not going to kind of torch your defense as bad as what Lamar Jackson would. But Tyler Huntley, he had a lot of games with a lot of good throws. He drove them down the field in the game against Chicago. Chicago was up, I believe it was like week 12, week 13. Took them down the field and scored a touchdown in the closing seconds of the game to get Baltimore to win. So, he's proven himself in that regard, that he can take a team down late game situations. They scored a lot of points. I mean, think about it. Baltimore lost a lot of games by 1 or 2 points out the last 5 or 6 weeks of the season. The games they lost, because they did go on a losing streak, I believe like 4 or 5 games. They lost those games, all of them by each one by no more than like 2 or 3 points. And that's Tyler Huntley keeping them in games. I mean, and some of those games were like 32-31. Some of those games were lost because John Harbaugh was going for 2-point conversions and crazy things like that. His teams were staying. Tyler Huntley was keeping them keeping the Ravens in the game. And I think when a backup quarterback does that, you should put that team in a position to tie and play on in overtime and see what happens. You put a lot of pressure on a backup quarterback to go for 2 and go for the win. I kind of understand it, but they did that. They did that a few times. They did that against the Steelers, against us, and they did it against another team. So that was 2 losses right there that they could have took the game into, overtime and kind of played it out and saw what happened. But I like Tyler Huntley as a backup. I think he fits Baltimore's system because he's similar to Lamar Jackson, though not in explosiveness, in play style, in scramblability, and other things like that. So I think he's a good fit for what they have going on in Baltimore as a backup quarterback. Now, we'll talk about the quarterback room of our Pittsburgh Steelers. And on this one, I want you guys to comment. I want to know what you guys think about, about some of the Steelers quarterback options and situations and things like that. And the title of the show, can the Steelers make it make it 4-for-4 on Heisman's in the division? So as we said, we have Baker Mayfield, Heisman winner, Lamar Jackson, Heisman winner, Joe Burrow, Heisman winner. So now the available Heisman Trophy winner quarterbacks that are available right now, we're talking about Marcus Mariota, we're talking about Jameis Winston. Those are two of the quarterbacks that are available that were past Heisman Trophy winners. And then we have our quarterbacks in the room. We have Mason Rudolph. Mason was a 7th place Heisman finisher his senior year for Oklahoma State. We have Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins was a 3rd place Heisman finisher coming out of Ohio State his final year of college in 2019. Mason was 2018. So, and then there are those options other options that we have for quarterback. We've heard about Teddy Bridgewater, Mitch Trubisky. I said Marcus Mariota and Jameis Winston. Tyrod Taylor. I kind of like Tyrod Taylor. And and some other guys that are out there for us to potentially look at to come in and compete with Mason and Dwayne. Mason Rudolph. That's a strong word. I think Mason can be decent. I think Mason Rudolph is probably better served as a backup, much like Brandon Allen from the Bengals. I mean, he's just kind of cut to be that guy, kind of cut to be a backup, in my opinion. I like Mason. I like Mason a lot coming out of Oklahoma State. He won quite a few of the collegiate quarterback awards coming out his final year at Oklahoma State. We know about the deadly connection with him and James Washington in college that never panned out for our Steelers. Mason, I think Mason is, well, the times that he's played in the past, at least in the 2019 season, he had happy feet. He wouldn't push the ball down the field. I think some time has passed now, a couple of years since then. I think he'll probably be more poised in the pocket just from more experience, more reps in practice. He did play a couple of games. He played the last game of the 2020 season in Cleveland. We didn't play a lot. We didn't play a lot of our starters. We lost that game. And he played this past year against the Detroit Lions at home when seven had COVID. So Mason came in on short notice. Found out the night before, coach called him and let him know he would be starting the game. And he played decent. He made some good throws. I mean, it's not his fault that we had to tie that game. I mean, you consider Deontay Johnson fumbling in overtime when we were in field goal range. And then at the very end of the game, Freiermuth fumbling when we had a chance at a potential game-winning field goal. If he catches that ball and if he doesn't fumble that ball and we get a timeout, we got a chance to send Boswell out there to win the game. But, I'm still going back to 2019 and I'm seeing Mason on the field. And it just never looked – I never had confidence in Mason at all. I mean, you have some young quarterbacks who, you might be a little worried about them turning the ball over or trying to do too much. I feel like Mason never did enough, though. Like, he was overly conservative. like I said, he had happy feet in the pocket. And, he had a tough time of it. He got hit by Earl Thomas, which was probably a dirty hit. He got hit up high, and they had to take his face mask off, and that's just like a memorable look that wasn't a good look. No fault of Mason's, but when he's just coming off the field, dazed without the face mask and stuff, it just looks like a guy you don't want running your team, But he's gonna get his shot this year in camp to compete for the starting job, and I think he deserves it. He's been here for 4 years. This will be his 5th season. I think he deserves that opportunity to try and be the starter. I don't know that he's the quarterback of the future, but he certainly could be the quarterback of the 2022 season. That could definitely happen, Steeler fans. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, the only other quarterback we have on the roster, I believe we just signed him to the free agent tender, UFA tender, Dwayne Haskins. He's a project. He was a first-round pick of the team, the Washington Commanders, team formerly known as the Washington Football Team, and before that, the Washington Redskins. During his time in Washington, Dwayne had some maturity issues, definite maturity issues. I think too much was put on him too soon. He played one full season at Ohio State, and he had a spectacular season. I mean, he threw 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Like I said, he finished 3rd in the Heisman Trophy voting, led Ohio State to a Rose Bowl win. Yeah, Rose Bowl win, I believe, against the Washington Huskies, a Big Ten championship. So he had a great season that 1 year at Ohio State. But he came to Washington at the time. Jay Gruden was still the coach. I don't believe Jay Gruden wanted him. That was a Daniel Snyder call. And, the owner is the boss. So Daniel Snyder made the pick. Jay Gruden got the quarterback. And I think the Washington fan base, because I'm in the DMV myself. I live out here in the Washington, D.C. area. I'm originally from Youngstown, Ohio, which is where the proximity to the Pittsburgh Steelers and my Pittsburgh Steeler fandom comes from. But being in the DMV, the Washington media market, I saw at the time that there were a lot of expectations on Dwayne Haskins, and kids and fans were putting a lot of expectations on him. Therefore, a lot of pressure on him to be the savior of the franchise. I mean, the football team hasn't had probably a quarterback, noteworthy quarterback, since Joe Theismann. Think about it, that was 40 years ago. They've had years. Doug Williams won a Super Bowl, Mark Rippon won a Super Bowl, but they've never really had that guy. They had the 1 year with RG3 his rookie year, then he got hurt. So I think it was a lot of pressure on Dwayne Haskins to come in and do some things. And when he got in, he wasn't ready. I don't think Jay Gruden wanted to play him. I feel like at the time Jay Gruden wanted him to fail, because remember now, like I just said, Jay Gruden didn't want him in the draft, but that was Daniel Snyder's call. But so he didn't play well. And I don't know that the Washington football team, the Commanders now, was a franchise that was set up for quarterback development. Like we said, they haven't had a great one in 40 years. So I don't know that they were set up for quarterback development. I know at one of the media availability since he's been in Pittsburgh, he alluded to that they didn't really go over game plans and what the defense would do, or have somebody, to kind of a quarterback coach to kind of coach the quarterbacks up in Washington. So he was at a deficiency there. And then his own mishaps, his own they were winning the game in Washington, and he was that he needed to go back in to run victory formation and run out the clock. And he was over, in the by the stand area signing autographs and happy about the win. So that's a sign of immaturity. Later on that same season, he was during the COVID season, he went to, I believe, his girlfriend's birthday party at a club here in DC, and he was cited and took a picture of him without a mask on, totally irresponsible at the time. So you have all those knocks against Dwayne Haskins. He comes in young from Ohio State after playing only 1 year. He's expected to be the savior for the Washington football team, Redskins at the time. And then his own childish, immature behavior. So, from there, when Ron Rivera came in, Ron Rivera gave him a chance to be the starter his second year, started the beginning of the season, threw quite a few interceptions, really didn't look good. So after the incident with being out without a mask on and being irresponsible in regards to COVID protocols and things like that, the Washington football team released him. We picked him up, I believe, after some, about 4 or 5 weeks. He got released maybe in December of 2020. I believe we picked him up in January of 2021 and signed him to a futures contract, which I think was good for the Steelers to do. First round talent, number 15 overall pick, a lot of arm talent. Ben Roethlisberger said last year in training camp that he has the kind of arm that could throw a ball through a car wash and not get wet. So I agree with the Steelers picking him up, signing to a futures contract, and let's just see what happens. I think Dwayne Haskins is full of on the field talent, arm talent. He doesn't have the mobility of the other quarterbacks in the division. Well, those quarterbacks in Baltimore, Lamar Jackson and Tyler Huntley, but he can move and roll the pocket and do some things on the move with his legs. He's not going to break out for 25 and 30-yard runs, but he can move the chains. If there's a lane there, he can pick up 8 to 10 yards. He definitely can do that. But I think his arm talent, and I think Mike Sullivan, the quarterback's coach in Pittsburgh, working with his mechanics, like his footwork. You clean up your footwork and it'll enhance your accuracy. And I think enhancing his accuracy, I think he already throws with anticipation. I think he'll throw the ball down the field and take a little more risk. Me personally, I'm rooting for Dwayne Haskins to win the job. I mean, as you can see, if you look behind me, you can see I have an Ohio State affiliation bias. So, I kind of root for Dwayne because of that. And some of these quarterbacks in the draft, we talk about drafting a quarterback in the first round at pick 20. And I don't know that I mind. I tell you what, if it's Malik Willis, I don't mind because I think Malik Willis has the potential down the road to be a difference maker, as far as doing stuff with his strong arm on the run with his legs and things like that. But anybody else, even Kenny Pickett. I mean, I look at Kenny Pickett. I like Kenny Pickett. He had a really good season this last year at Pitt. 42 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, finished third in the Heisman in the ACC. But then I look at Dwayne Haskins' final season, 50 touchdowns, 8 interceptions in the Big Ten. Both of them finished third in the Heisman. I don't understand all the hype behind Kenny Pickett. Even though I think Kenny Pickett would be a good quarterback, I don't know that he's a difference maker, that he's any better than what we have in Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph right now. So I kind of rather, if Pittsburgh is drafting at number 20, and I don't think Malik Willis will be there, that we just go with, the best player available. Whoever's on the board, outside of a quarterback position that we can get. But that's my thought on the Steelers quarterbacks and the rest of the quarterbacks in the AFC North. So if you guys have any questions about or any comments about some of these quarterbacks, let me know. Yeah, I agree with is it BS Miles 84. I agree with you, man. It is a tough pick between Pickett, Mason, Willis, and Haskins. Like I said, I don't know if Pickett necessarily goes in that group because I think he's not any better than Rudolph and Haskins. But I do think Willis has the potential to be a true difference maker with the total package. Once he's coached up, once he's learns the NFL game, I don't think he can come in right away and do some of the things we're thinking to win games. But you let him sit for the first half of the season and then going into next year, I think he could really be the guy, going forward. High ceiling, maybe not as high a floor as Pickett, but like the potential. So Dave Muse thinks, what's up, Dave? Thanks for watching. You think Willis is just hype? I can see that. I mean, it might be seemingly easy to hype things up this year with the quarterback class that's coming out. I mean, there are no surefire guaranteed guys like there's like other years like we had Joe Burrow number one, we had Trevor Lawrence last year number one, and so there's not that guy. There's no consensus on any quarterback in the draft. A lot of people like Pickett. A lot of people think Willis has the most upside. Desmond Ridder showed really well at the NFL Combine. And then you got Matt Corral, who got hurt. I like Corral, but he got hurt. So we'll see. What else do we have here? BS Miles asks what happens with Dobbs. What I think happens with Dobbs, BS Miles, man. I think Joshua Dobbs is going to he's a free agent, so I don't think the Steelers will sign him back immediately. I think they're going to allow him to try and find a home, try and latch on somewhere and see if he can, maybe get on somewhere as a backup, because he's been in Pittsburgh now for about 5 years outside of when he got traded to Jacksonville. And it just hasn't. Well, obviously, he never was going to really get it on the field because Ben was there. That first year, he did win the backup job. Mason's first year, and then Mason's second year, Mason won the backup job. But I think they let Dobbs go, see if he can sign on elsewhere, and then depending on how things pan out, if he's available, they could bring him back to be the third quarterback still. I think they like him in the room. I know it was Ben's guy. Rig Steel 1021 says Jordan Davis in the first round. I'd like Jordan Davis in the first round. Jordan Davis is the big 6'6" defensive tackle from Georgia, 340 pounds, ran with like a 4.78 40. Sheesh. But I would love him on that defensive line with hopefully Tuitt and Cam Hayward and Alu coming back. I think they could be really formidable. There's talk about Pittsburgh is trying again to see what's up as far as trading for Fletcher Cox. Man, we could bring in Fletcher Cox along with drafting Jordan. If they brought in Fletcher Cox, they probably wouldn't draft Jordan Davis. But still, to think about all that defensive line talent, that would be great. Tyrone Johnson, Bryce Young next year. Bryce Young, the Heisman winning quarterback. Well, we keep it with the theme. Heisman Trophy winners in the AFC North. I like Bryce Young. I think he's a little bit small. Again, I'm partially biased. in affiliation to Ohio State. I like CJ Stroud. If I was going for a quarterback next year, I would take CJ Stroud over Bryce Young. And I just think he's the size, and I think he's a better pocket passer. And nothing against Bryce Young, and not just that's not just my bias speaking for Ohio State and CJ Stroud. I just think he's the better quarterback. I agree with Mr. Hammers. I'd rather take Jordan Davis if he's there at 20 over any of these quarterbacks. I kind of agree. Like I said, it'll be a decision to be made if Malik Willis is there, but I doubt he's there. Um, Hammer said he'd take Booth Jr. That's the cornerback from Clemson at pick 20. Okay. I can see cornerback. I think if I'm drafting corner, I like Booth, but I mean, I'd much rather see Stingley fall. He could potentially make it to 20. The quarterback out of LSU. I don't think Sauce Gardner, the quarterback from Cincinnati, cornerback from Cincinnati, is going to make it there. Okay. Dave Muse says Ritter has better tape than Willis. I think I probably agree. I mean, Ritter took Cincinnati to BCS playoffs while Malik Willis was playing at Liberty. But we're talking upside. I mean, Ritter is really good. Ritter ran a 4.5. Ritter is a really good quarterback. But I think when you're talking about upside, still Willis wins out there. But you said that's just hype, Mr. Muse. So I don't know. I could definitely go with Rick Steele, Ritter in the second. Certainly agree. Hammers, yep. If Stingley falls, you sprint to the podium. I certainly agree. We haven't had. I mean, Stingley's probably a top 2 or 3 quarter. You got Garner, Stingley, and Booth, depending on who you like. The Steelers haven't had opportunity to draft a top 3 corner in a long time, if ever. That's why we're always perceived as so bad at drafting corners, is because we never get to pick an early corner. We always picking like at best the 5th or 6th best corner. And we reached for Artie Burns that one year, and we've had some other bad corner picks over the years. I mean, so I don't know. But keeping it with back to the quarterbacks. Oh yeah, I like Anthony Richardson too, Hammers. Coming out next year. I like Richardson. But so keeping it with the quarterbacks, we're gonna get ready to get out of here. But I just wanted to kind of break down the AFC North division quarterbacks. So if we're ranking the quarterbacks as it stands right now in the division, I got to go Burrow 1, Jackson is 2. Even though Jackson won an MVP, Burrow got his team to a Super Bowl in his first year in the playoffs. And Lamar Jackson has won one playoff game in about three years, 3 playoff seasons. So, so I got to go with Burrow 1, Jackson 2. It's crazy to say, but it's close between Mason and Baker for me. Just the experience, I'm going to give it to Baker because of the experience, because he took a team to a playoff game. He took a team to an 11-5 record into the 2020 season. They weren't, I think, last year they were 8-9. So, he has way more experience than Mason. So I'm going to go with Baker 3, Mason 4. But yeah, so that'll be it for this episode of We Run the North. We'll be back next week and we'll talk about some more. Maybe we'll talk about the AFC North free agency signings next week. I don't know yet. We have to kind of, talk and decide about what we want to talk about. But thank you guys for joining us. Check out Let's Ride tomorrow evening. Bad, Tony Defio, and Shannon White are going to be on The Hangover tomorrow evening. So check that podcast out and all the other great shows on the BTSC platform. And you can check me out outside of this at the Know It All podcast. Check us out on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and just check and see. We talk about all kinds of sports, but I definitely represent the Steelers on that platform as well. So, you guys have a good weekend. Sunday night, signing off. Go Steelers. Peace.